For the past several years, Florida has become a massive hotspot for people to move to from all over the country and from all over the world. And during the pandemic, that actually just got amplified, and more people seem to just pour in here. And so today, I want to talk to you about why moving to Florida pretty much, I don't know. Well, some people would say we regret it now, and why you should not do it unless you're okay with everything that I'm going to talk about in this video. Now, I used to make these videos a lot back in the day, but I think it's time for an update because a lot of things have changed here in Florida over the past couple of years, and it's to the point where most people probably shouldn't move here anymore. So the first thing, and probably is going to be the biggest barrier for most people, is of course housing prices. Okay. Real estate is way too expensive here for most people, and the current median home price in Florida is about $380,000. And that is statewide across all types of properties. So it doesn't really fit the bill for everyone, guys. And that's kind of on the low side when you really look at how much it costs to live in a nice neighborhood and a lot of these different areas across the state. But here's the good news. Inventory throughout the state of Florida has been exploding recently. Home prices have actually been steadily coming down throughout the state on a state level. And when we go back to June of 2022, which was the peak of the housing market here back then, home prices were around 388,000 median, and they've kind of inched down to 380K since then. And when I go back and look at the historical inventory data here in Florida using SunStats, I can see that pre-pandemic, it was pretty common to have roughly about 150,000 homes on the market in Florida during any given moment. And what we saw during the pandemic was a huge dip in inventory. But you can see things have been surging back up ever since about spring of 2022. Inventory's been going up, and pretty heavily actually, as of October of 2023. There's about 119,000 listings on the market in the state of Florida, and that's only 30,000 listings shy of inventory being back to pre-pandemic levels in the state. Now, a lot of this could be due to the fact that we've had a massive boom in building here in Florida as well. A lot of new homes have been developed over the past few years, which has greatly added to the inventory stock. But also a lot of it is the fact that people are leaving the state because of a lot of the things that I'm about to tell you, and this is one of them. And so you had a lot of people putting their places for sale because they honestly just can't hack it anymore, guys. But the problem is that prices in a lot of areas haven't caught up with this inventory trend yet. And that's why you're still seeing a lot of places in Florida that are far too expensive. But you can start imagining there's going to be some pretty massive price cuts here in the state in areas where inventory has been exploding, because obviously it's not everywhere. But you know that if you live here right now and in Southwest Florida, that is one of those areas that's seeing a massive inventory spike. And that's just the beginning, guys. And kind of related to this housing cost situation, I did a road trip across the country this past summer, and I stopped in many different states. And a lot of you guys followed me along and saw all the places I went to. And the reality is, for what you get here for the money, it's no longer really worth it when it comes to purchasing a home. In many cases, you can move to other states where you can get a similar style home for half the price and also pay much lower property taxes and all the expenses that go along with owning and maintaining that home for just a fraction. Now, you might not be close to the beach or within a 10 or 15-minute drive to the beach, and obviously you're not in Florida anymore, but that might be worth it for people who really want to become homeowners. Now, in order to make this video, I've asked for your help. And I put up a community post a while back on my channel asking people that currently live in Florida or have lived here over the past 5 years to give me some feedback on the things that have really made living here much worse. And I got to tell you guys, the number one theme that keeps reoccurring throughout this comment section more than anything else was the cost of living, guys. There was about 300 comments there, and probably at least 200 out of those 300 comments were related to something along the lines of the cost of living being too high. Now, I'm going to read off some of the things that you guys said about the cost of living here that I think everybody can relate to who lives here now or has lived here in the past few years. All right, let's get started here. So, first one, the cost of living has gotten ridiculous because income in Florida is not enough to afford these high rent prices. However, landlords are going to be suffering soon if they don't drop their prices. And I absolutely agree with this. This is the same thing along the lines of what homes are selling for, and people haven't caught up yet, guys. And the homeowners and landlords always are the last ones to know or to realize that, hey, the market's not as hot as it used to be. It's time to start lowering prices, and all these people are going to be finding this out the hard way pretty soon. Brevard County, Florida here, aside from 120% home price increases in 2 years, 40% homeowners insurance price increase, 40% water bill increases, and 90% electric bill increases, I see probably 5 times more homeless people now than in 2020. As a side note, I moved here in 2009 and bought a home for 60% off of 2007 prices after the market crashed. This housing bubble in Florida is mathematically roughly 90% worse than 2006 through 2007, and that doesn't even account for the simultaneous 40 to 90% increase across all other costs of living, from food to insurance and electricity. So I subscribe to the idea that Florida will see a minimum of 60 to 70% home price crash between 2024 and 2026. And this is so much worse than pre-2008, and it's not even comparable. The average person in Florida is paying over 65% of their net income in bills. Wow. Wow. As you can see, the sentiment here with this comment is that it has gotten far too expensive here, way beyond what the normal person can actually afford to live here based on today's salaries. And that's just absolutely true, guys. Or how about this one? I'm living here in Florida since 2018 and planning to move out early next year. Insurance and property taxes are the biggest negative, and now HOA is slowly creeping in too. I love the weather, people, surroundings, but economically it's getting out of hand and can't afford even basics anymore. And I make decent money, 150K plus, which is no longer decent in this economy. Once again, guys, the cost of living. If you can't live a comfortable lifestyle here making 150 grand a year, then clearly it's not a good place anymore. However, I'll say this, that highly depends on where you live in the state of Florida, because there are still many places here where you can live a great life on $150,000 a year salary. I mean, maybe not in places like Miami and Tampa and Naples anymore, but maybe other places. And yes, you still can live a very good life on that salary. And how about this? I left Connecticut to get away from the cost of living. It's now pretty much as expensive as Connecticut to live in Clay County, Florida. The traffic and congestion is worse. Houses aren't even updated from rental companies. They just hand keys over to the next tenant and do a zero refresh. And that's kind of funny too, because Florida used to be a great place for people to come, and because it was so much cheaper here. In fact, people that have followed my channel for a long time, if you go back and dig deep enough into the past, I have videos back then about places that you could go and have bought a house that has a 10, 15-minute drive from the beach for under $200,000. Guys, same thing with oceanfront condos. You could have bought something like that for under $200,000 back in the day. Like crazy deals that you can't even imagine getting today. All those houses now are triple what they were back when I was making those videos. And so anybody that moved here from a higher cost of living state over the past few years for our low cost of living in Florida is now probably starting to think about returning back to their home state because it's just not worth it anymore. Now, obviously, I didn't get everybody's comments, but with the cost of living, guys, we're also seeing property taxes going up. And that's a huge thing. I talked to you guys about that in some earlier videos, and some folks' property tax bills this year going up like $1,300 just for the year. And that's a pretty big increase in 1 year for a homestead resident. And this buying things here in general has also gotten crazy expensive, but I think you guys get the idea. So I don't want to spend too much time on this here because I have a lot of things that I want to get through here. And the next thing is homeowners insurance. And really all types of insurance have been getting absolutely out of control. And the number one thing that people need to do here if they want to move to Florida, if they are going to buy a house, is you need to make sure that you can even get insurance on the house. Now, guys, that's how bad it is, because some houses are basically uninsurable due to their location or the condition of the property or both. And if you can get insurance, it's probably going to be sky high on a property like the one I just described. Not only that, but if you live in a flood zone, which a lot of the state is in, you'll be required to get flood insurance, which is an additional expense on top of your regular homeowner's insurance. And the affordability for these things has basically gone out of the window, along with the rest of the cost of living. And we've seen people's insurance rates skyrocket as high as 400 to 500% higher than it was just a couple years ago. In fact, one of my viewers, he sent me this story, and I wanted to include with this how it really wraps this into this insurance scenario here. So we have a guy in 2019 who paid about $7,000 a year for homeowners insurance. They sold the house, and the new person is paying $22,000 per year for the same house. And it goes up between 30 and 40% per year. And there's nothing that you can do about it. There's nothing you can do about it, guys. This is the state of affairs here right now with this. It is absolutely insane what's happening. And on top of that, the person who bought this house also pays $40,000 per year in property taxes. So you guys have seen plenty of examples of my walks here where I'm walking through neighborhoods of people with these crazy property tax bills, and it's just out of control, really. I've complained about this numerous times where we're paying this crazy amount of money in property taxes now and insurance and all this stuff. And what do we get in return for it? We don't get a higher quality of life. In fact, to me, it makes the quality of life go down because the expenses are astronomical and you don't get to enjoy life as much when you have to pay for all this stuff. And right along with insurance costs, car insurance is also out of control here. And I recently shared with you guys how I got slapped with a renewal notice that's coming up in December, and my insurance was going up about 25% in just 6 months, guys. And same policy, same everything. No accidents, no tickets. I saw some jokers say in the comments before, like, oh, this guy must have a bunch of tickets and a bad driving record and all this crap. And none of that's true. I haven't been in an accident in so many years, and I don't have any tickets. Okay, nothing like that. I have a perfect driving record essentially, but yet the insurance goes up by 25%. But I do expect to bring that price down. I'm not going to get into that in this video, but basically I called the insurance company yesterday and I slashed all the coverage in half and doubled the deductible, and I was able to get the rate down substantially. But I'll talk more about that in a future video. But the point is that the rates are shooting up higher and faster than ever before right now with all types of insurance here in Florida, and there's nothing you can do about it besides move or don't own anything that needs to be insured, which essentially means you own nothing. Now, the next thing is the lifestyle here in Florida, where a lot of people come here on vacation. They spend a week or two here, especially in the wintertime with the snowbirds, or they go to Disney or whatever, and they're like, oh, I love it here. I want to live here all year. Okay, well, first of all, let me let you in on a little secret, guys. Unless you're rich and you're not going to have to work, you're not going to be enjoying that vacation lifestyle here. And you think you are because of all the reasons I just mentioned and how high the cost of living here is, right? Now, most likely you're going to move here and be working at least one, maybe two jobs just to keep a roof over your head with these housing prices and all these expenses that go along with just staying alive. And you're not going to be enjoying any sort of the vacation lifestyle that you had when you came down here and visited. And forget about retiring here either, especially if you're on a fixed income and you think you're going to retire here on a budget. Guys, unfortunately, those days are basically over. And I would highly caution you against looking at buildings that are like 55 and older, and you see some kind of condo that's like 150,000 and the maintenance fee is only $300 a month. That is a huge red flag right now with all the problems that we're having with condos here in Florida. And in fact, I want you guys to go check out another video I made the other day, which talks in depth about just that and why you might want to stay away from doing something like that. Now, how about the weather? I know a lot of people think that the weather here in Florida is perfect, especially when they see me walking around in January and in shorts and a tank top. And let me tell you, there's only a few months out of the year now where the weather is essentially perfect here in Florida, and that's in the winter, guys. It's basically December, January, and February are the best months for the weather here. And after that, it already starts heating up. And in fact, last year, I remember by April, it already felt like summer. It got so hot here so fast, and it just stayed hot. And I couldn't wait to leave for my summer road trip and make it to the West Coast where it was roughly 75 degrees every day. But obviously, it's not just the heat. That's a problem here, but you have to be able to face hurricanes, which we get hit with substantial hurricanes here, and they're like very strong storms. And you never know where they're going to hit next. They cause a massive amount of damage. And besides just hurricanes, we have a lot of regular severe thunderstorms too. So guys, like I showed you guys the other day, all these trees that got uprooted in the park, I showed you all the flooding that had happened, all these different downed trees in different neighborhoods that was just from a regular storm that blew through here. And those storms can be very strong sometimes. And I'm not saying that you don't have thunderstorms and strong storms in other parts of the country, but because of how expensive everything is here with the insurance and all of this, if you need to make a claim against all of that, then you can get your insurance dropped. Your rate can go up because you had to make a claim. So there's all sorts of problems with having this severe weather here because it just influences and increases the cost of living even higher. Now, unfortunately, I've got a comment here from one of the guys that says that, let me read it to you. The heat and humidity has to be the worst it has ever been and getting this way since the 90s. Now, we are at a point where it's insufferable and you should not be living in this terrible climate. It used to be decent when I was growing up in the 90s, not anymore. Now it's 10 months of unbearable heat and humidity, and I can't move for a variety of reasons. So obviously this person was born here, probably has all their family and their job here, and they're stuck here for now. And when you have a native Floridian saying that, it kind of should be an eye-opener for a lot of people because you have more context there, right? You have people that have been here for a long time, but even me, guys, I've been here for a little while, and I can personally attest to the fact that it's getting hotter here, for sure. And I don't care what people say. You can make fun of all the climate change stuff and this and that, and I'm not even talking about that in this video here. I'm just telling you my own personal anecdotes, and it's so much hotter here than it was before. In fact, these last few years seem to be the worst ones ever, and thank God I was gone for the summer because Miami literally had the hottest months on record ever in Miami, and I'm so glad I wasn't here to experience it. And if things go well for me, my goal moving forward is to not be here in the summer ever anymore. Now, and I just can't take it. I'm not going to end up leaving altogether like a lot of other people are doing. And that's despite the fact that the cost of living and the weather are the number one things that make me want to leave. And one of my guilty pleasures in life, guys, is perfect weather. And that's why I enjoy being out west in California so much. People ask me about it and they say, hey, why do you like California so much? They just focus on the political side of things. But when I'm there, I can tell you that I'm not focusing on that. I'm focusing on the beautiful weather, and I'm focusing on the lifestyle that I'm living. I'm not living here and I'm not trying to sell California or anything like that. But I am telling you that those things are the biggest influences on me wanting to leave, because the cost of living combined with the extreme weather here is just not for me anymore. And if I'm going to pay this much to live here, then I might as well pay a little bit more and live over there, is pretty much kind of what I've been thinking. Now, the next thing is the traffic and the tourists. And I'm going to combine this into one because they pretty much complement each other. So the traffic is worsened by the amount of tourists that we have here, and it's always getting worse, guys. This is something that's never getting better. The traffic continuously gets worse every single year. Miami has the worst traffic in the entire nation. And I can tell you this because I've driven across the entire nation and nowhere else have I experienced traffic as bad as here. Are there some places in California as bad as Miami? Yeah, sure. But the difference is over there, you can take a different route. In Miami here, you're stuck because you're surrounded by water and drawbridges and stuff. And when that stuff is not working properly or the drawbridges are up, you're just stuck. There's no alternative route. But anyway, people in other parts of the state are complaining about this too. And I saw a lot of people complaining about the traffic in the comments when I asked for your help on this. And people live throughout the entire state, guys. Now, the traffic might be a joke to people that are coming from Miami or New York or California, in areas where people are already complaining about it. But nonetheless, it's getting worse, and tourists here can slow you down big time, because when you have all these tourists coming here, it's great for our economy and people will spend money here, but it slows you down. People are lost. They don't know where they're going. People are lollygagging and just sightseeing and wanting to drive 20 miles an hour down the street that's supposed to be 40. And it can be extremely annoying as a resident here when you're trying to just live your daily life, or you have a commute you have to deal with, and it gets old, guys. Like, people ask me all the time, oh, Kevin, how come you don't go to Kendall? How come you don't go to Fort Lauderdale and all these other places? Number one reason, guys, is traffic. I just don't want to deal with it. I hate it. I really, really hate it. Every single time I go out every day to shoot these videos for you guys, I intentionally choose a spot where I know I'm not going to have to deal with a lot of traffic for the day. And unfortunately, that kind of keeps me pretty close to where I live, but at least I'm able to cycle through a lot of the cool places and show you some of the beautiful views and still see different things, even though I'm not going 30 to 40 minutes away from home. Because the reality is, if I do that, then a 30-minute drive to, let's just say, Fort Lauderdale becomes an hour drive on the way home, because now I'm stuck in rush hour traffic and it's just not worth it. Guys, if I do that, that video is not going to get any extra views than the one I just made right down the street, because I've tried that before. I've tried different things, and my road trip across the country proves that that doesn't really matter where the video is shot. What really matters to you guys seems to be what the video is about and how much you enjoyed the video more than anything else. But I can personally attest, along with everybody else who complained about this, that the traffic here is no joke. And it is an absolute nightmare, because you have people from all over the world driving on the same streets, and these people probably shouldn't even have a license. Let's put it that way, guys. If you're over 75, you should be getting your eyes checked every year. And first of all, there's way too many people that can't see, and they're just driving 20 miles an hour. And then you have the opposite going on, where you have people that fly down the road at 60, 70 miles an hour in an area that's supposed to be 35, and it's super dangerous. There's a lot of hit and runs, lots of accidents here. That's why we have high car insurance. It's just crazy. Here's another reason not to move here: scammers and fraud. Yep, that's right. Florida ranks number 4 in the US for fraud, with 1,446 reports per 100,000 residents as of 2022. And that's from the FTC. And some of the most common scams that we have here are debt collection scams, identity theft, and imposter scams. Now, that's really big with renting places right now. And the Craigslist scams have been a thing here forever. People pose as the landlord or the seller of a house, and they'll take a deposit from you, and you'll never hear from them again because they're not actually the owner, and people still fall for it to this day. I have no idea how, but they do. So you got to be very careful when it comes to text message scams, phone scams, in-person scams, and when it comes to renting or buying things. Guys, just be careful if you're going to move here. And by the way, I'll change my tune just a little bit. And in case you actually are not completely against moving here yet, or you're deciding to move somewhere else because everything I'm saying is terrifying, make sure that if you need a real estate agent, whether you're looking to buy or sell a home, I've dropped a link down below in the description, and I'll set you up with a real estate agent completely for free. And it helps you. It helps you. It helps the channel. And if you use the link, I really would appreciate it. Now, here's the next thing. You can be kicked out of your own home if you live in a condo. Yep, that's right. Guys, I want you guys to check out another video that I made the other day. And I already shared this with you earlier, and I have a perfect example of that in that video. But they are shutting people down. They are shutting buildings down right now that don't meet standards anymore because we had the Champlain Towers collapse here back in 2021. And ever since then, everybody's on high alert. And it's causing new laws to be made throughout the entire state, as well as the fact that if the building you live in is not in good shape, they're evacuating people. And a lot of the time, no one's going back. Guys, only a couple times have I seen people that have been able to move back into their buildings that have been evacuated. But some of them get evacuated and no one ever is able to move back in. So you need to be very careful if you're going to purchase a condo here and you're going to be purchasing a place that is not only in good financial condition, but is also in good physical condition. Customer service here is absolutely awful. And now I can't say that that's the case throughout the entire state of Florida because it's not. But in certain areas, and definitely the bigger cities like Miami and Tampa and Orlando, customer service is not good anymore. Guys, and I think this is kind of a pandemic thing nationwide. And ever since then, things have kind of went downhill. And the only places that you still get any sort of good customer service anymore would be in small towns where there's still good hospitality. But for the most part, you're not getting that anymore. And Florida was never known for its customer service to begin with. But I can tell you as a resident here, and not just living in Miami, things have gone downhill substantially since the pandemic. Now, here's one that most people won't consider or not even realize if they haven't lived here for a decent amount of time. And that is, it's just not fun anymore, guys. Literally, all the reasons I just described make it so that it's not that fun anymore, because when you have to constantly contest with an ever increasing cost of living, more and more people, more and more rude people coming here, it's not fun to deal with. Trust me. Somebody said here, actually, what it feels like a lot of the time, they said, is that, let me read it to you. Hear exactly what I feel like a lot of times. And they said, lived here for 20 years, and I feel either I've sucked everything I can from Miami or Miami has sucked everything from me. I don't feel a return of enjoyment anymore. And it's not really a big surprise to feel that way when things have changed so dramatically here just over the past 5 years, really. Because prior to then, you didn't see major changes here in terms of the cost of living or the amount of people living here or anything like that. But it has changed substantially in the past 5 years. Somebody else says, too many transplants with big money have moved in. Too many speculators have caused the housing prices to go way up, way too fast, above what the average worker makes in Florida. The traffic, bad roads, and rude drivers is getting worse by the day. Loud music blasting from the cars, horns blowing, no patience for anyone anymore. Not to mention reckless drivers driving 30 to 15 miles over the speed limit. My rent in Orlando went from $1,100 a month for a one bedroom up to $1,800 a month, $1,800 a month, and only a year and a half with no upgrades. Unless a housing crash happens soon, I have no choice but to leave ASAP. And unfortunately, I think that's going to be the case for many people as people just continue to get squeezed out. Now, guys, the more people have to pay and the more their quality of life goes down, the more you're going to see more people listing homes for sale, the more vacancies you're going to see for rentals. And that's going to bring the prices down here substantially, which could be a good opportunity for people in the future that want to come and give it a go, even though things aren't going to be as good as you probably think they will. Now, if the cost of living goes down enough in the future, then maybe it will be, but who knows? Owning an investment property is not worth it anymore. I've owned a couple different investment properties here in Florida, sold them, and now my wife and I only have one left. And we're going to sell it, guys, because it's becoming impossible to turn profits here now with all the expenses that you have, and it's just not worth it anymore for a long period of time. I don't know, between 2010 and 2020 were fabulous years to own investment property here in Florida because the cost to buy the homes was relatively low compared to what you could charge in rent. And your spread was very good. Now, we were making a very good cap rate for a long period of time, and it was very lucrative. But those days are over, and anyone who's investing in rental property in Florida now is not getting those same returns, let me tell you. And if you are making any sort of return, the margin is so low that it's really not worth all the headache and hassle that comes along with it, if you ask me. And all of the sleepless nights and all the problems that come along with being a landlord to make a 3, 4, maybe 5% return on investment. No, thank you, guys. I'd rather just keep my money earning 5.5% in a CD or a treasury at that point. And someone else actually mentioned more and more homeless here in Florida. And I did notice when I was driving back to Miami, I stopped in several different cities along the way in Florida, and I did see a noticeable uptick in the amount of homeless people and unhoused people and beggars on the streets asking and begging for money on the streets, guys. Now, is it anywhere near on the level that it is out west and the other half of the country? No. But things are heading in the wrong direction when it comes to that, okay? And in fact, Miami Beach just passed a law a couple of months ago making it illegal to be homeless and sleep on the streets here if you don't accept help. And if you don't accept moving to a homeless shelter, then you'll be arrested. And so they're starting to crack down on that here in Miami. And I don't know how well that strategy is going to work out for them in the future, but at least they're trying to do something about it rather than doing nothing like California does. But I don't see this problem getting any better in the future as more and more people continue to come here, while simultaneously the cost of living continues to go up and people can't afford a place to live. Somebody else said, nothing important infrastructure-wise is getting done. And they said that public infrastructure in Southwest Florida, the only focus is building houses and commercial buildings here. Sidewalks, streetlights, parks, roads, repairs, exit ramps, etc. Almost nothing is done. And I can kind of vouch for this here in Miami because, guys, all they want to do is continue building more and more housing here. But they're not making the roads better. They're not building more parking lots. They're not building any more places for the traffic to go. So it's just going to continue deteriorating the quality of life here when it comes to that. I mean, you just cannot keep adding this amount of residents that we have been adding here and not significantly add to the infrastructure as well. And even when you do add to it, it's too little, too late. You see a lot of the highways under construction here in Miami trying to expand the roads and this and that. But that should have been done like 5 years ago, okay? Not now, when we have the amount of residents exploding here. And it seems like nobody actually cares about making sure that the amount of people that are living here can get around safely and in a timely manner. All they care about is maximizing profits. Let's build the maximum we can, the most high rises, the most houses everywhere until people can't take it anymore. It just seems like that's the strategy now. Now, I know that all of this probably sounds pretty horrible, especially for the people that had high hopes for moving to Florida. But is there a light at the end of the tunnel? Well, according to a few people, there are. Now, someone says, complain all you want, but Florida still has the best long-term overlook in terms of social stability, weather, and stuff to do. Where are you going to go? California? No thanks. Just move from there. Go to Texas. Sure, if you're a stay-at-home person, but it's not for me. It's hot and boring. Coastal water is ugly and dark. Good economy, no question. In my opinion, Florida is still the best unless you want to move to Portugal where it's cheaper and the weather is great. And as a native, I hope the high cost drives most people out. And that one actually gave me a good laugh because that's probably the only silver lining to all of this, right? As more and more people can't take it anymore and can't afford to be here anymore, then naturally people will leave. But I think there's still going to be people coming in to take their place for quite some time, guys, because there's a lot of people out there with a lot of money. And as soon as somebody else gives it up, somebody else will be here to take their place. It must be good here in Florida when you have to look hard to find something bad. I love it here, man. Is that a great attitude, huh? Everything has gotten worse, but I guess that's true for the entire country. I stay here for one reason, the warm weather. So yeah, are there reasons still to come here, guys? Absolutely. And if you love the hot weather, forget about warm weather. Hot weather is the actual way to phrase that. If you like hot weather, you're going to like living in Florida for sure. And if you can afford all these crazy things that we talked about in this video, then these crazy home prices, the high cost of living, the high insurance rates, the high car insurance, the grocery bill, the electric bill, the water bill, if none of that stuff scares you away and you still want to be here just for the weather and you want to just go to the beach every day and you know that you can afford that, then it might still be nice. And I have to be honest, guys, if all I had to do was wake up every day and drink my coffee, looking at the ocean, and then go out and spend some time at the beach and come back home and rinse and repeat in retirement, it would still be pretty nice to live here. But that means not dealing with the traffic, not worrying about how much anything's going to cost, and just living that lifestyle regardless of how much it costs, essentially. And I know that this video has been a little longer than usual, but I wanted to make it as comprehensive as possible. That way people that are really giving it a serious thought to come here know what they're getting themselves into. Now, if you or someone is thinking about moving here, make sure that you share this video with them. Give the video a like, and if you enjoyed the video, make sure you subscribe to the channel. And if you don't want to wait for my next video to come out, just check out this one on the screen right over here, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.